All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us today on Occupation Story Hub. Today we have Ruben with us. He has an interesting story about how he joined the Navy. And so we wanted to take this time to thank him for joining us and telling us his story. And I'll pass it over to you, Ruben. Introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about your military career, and then we'll get into your story.
All right. Well, thanks for having me, Anthony. Like you said, my name is Ruben, originally from Colorado. I did 8 years active duty in the Navy. Started out undesignated, which means that you don't have a job, but you do have a job. And then after a couple of years of that, I cross-rated to intelligence, which is crypto tech. That was an interesting story in itself. It's a whole two different worlds there. Once I got out after 8 years, got into the federal government. Been there ever since. Have a total of 26 honorable 26 government years. So that's
That's awesome, man.
my story in a nutshell.
Yeah. And this is an awesome opportunity for me because not only is Ruben a veteran, he's a good friend of mine. I met him in my first tour in the Navy, and he kind of took me under his wing and showed me the ropes. And so we've been lifelong friends ever since. I mean, this was back in 2003, and so
Yeah.
I really wanted to hear his story from his side about his journey in the military and how it got him to where he's at now. So, if you don't mind, if you take us back to what made you join for one, why did you want to join the military, and what made you choose the Navy?
Well, there's a couple things. I was a really good student in high school. I want to say like I was close to a straight A student, but a couple blemishes here and there with B's. But I had a lot of scholarships to go to college, but I just didn't think I was mature enough. I had at the time I was partying with a lot of friends, and I just didn't have the maturity level. Wasn't there, and I realized that. So I was I had a girlfriend at the time, high school sweetheart. We talked about it. She had been the one that was kind of pushing me. Hey, let's talk to this recruiter about the Navy, and a lot of my family had gone to the military, so I knew uh, mostly what it was going to take and what it entailed, but didn't know much about the Navy other than I was out on ships out in the ocean and being in Colorado. Well, we didn't get the opportunity to really see that very much. So joined the Navy right after high school, and I think the big thing for me at the time was serving my country. Also, the GI Bill was big, and the discipline. I really needed it, and it seemed like it would afford me a lot of opportunities based on a lot of my cousins and family that had gone before me.
That's good. That's good. Take us back a little bit. Do you remember? And if you don't, that was it seems like it's a long time ago, right? Getting old, but um, what was the process like for you going from high school to going to talk to a recruiter and the recruiter saying, "Hey, got this really cool job for you. It's called working in deck department," or you know, uh,
Oh,
and kind
that
of,
was the best job. Yeah, no,
what
I
was that
understand what you're saying,
like?
Anthony. Well, he didn't really, they always say that recruiters lie to you and everything because, first and foremost, being an undesignated seaman in deck department is one of the most challenging jobs you'll ever get in the military. I compare it to infantry for the army. You know, uh,
Sure.
some of the most laborious jobs that you'll see in the military, and you're doing every job that there is on the ship, and any laborious job on the ship. From steering the ship to standing watches to fueling the ship, doing unreps where you're getting the mail, getting the ship's stores like food and anything else that getting delivered to the ship out at sea. You're the one that's doing that, and it was a lot of work. The military recruiter, he told me it's pretty much a job that you get to go be on the ship. You don't have a set um, skill job, but the good thing is that if you look at a job that's on a ship and you like it, you can strike and get that job. And which it is true, but there's a lot of things in between that he doesn't tell you. And the thing is that it takes time. You have to get all your quals done. You have to, you
Sure.
have to work during all that time. You have to have a good rapport with your leadership. And during that time, it's a lot of hard work. But after you get through all that, you check all the boxes. You go to talk to, higher leadership chiefs and officers to say, hey, there's a job that I like, then you can get the job that you really want afterwards. But you're going to be doing a lot of work in between that. And it's like I said, the military recruiter, he didn't tell me necessarily he didn't lie to me, but he didn't tell me the whole
Hmm.
story. And what it taught me, the the night and day that I experienced from going from a small town in Colorado to the Navy was just seeing different cultures, getting out to a big city, you're on your own, you're away from your
Yeah.
family, um, just just kind of growing as a young person and gaining that discipline, and you have like a father figure, Uncle Sam, the military's your pretty much your parents at that point,
Yeah.
and
Keeping you
it really
alive.
helped me out long term.
Yeah, and what's interesting for those who aren't familiar with the Navy specifically is that like deck department, if you think of like that's traditional old school Navy. Boatswain's mates, these are the people when you see a ship pulling in or out of port, taking the mooring lines off and dropping the anchor and chipping paint on the ship, repainting the ship. This is the rating that's what they call it, deck department. You're actually it's pure seamanship, pure 100% sailor. You have other jobs on the ship where you may not be like for me. I was a crypto guy as well, and I didn't really touch any of the deck stuff. For my qualifications from getting my ESWAS and not that I had to learn that part of the Navy, but I didn't get to do the traditional Navy stuff, which at when you're on the ship, you're like, I don't want to go do that. That looks too hard, I want to stay in my air conditioning space and but like later on, you appreciate all the hard work that those guys in deck department are doing because they're keeping the ship running. Um, okay, so the recruiter talked you into joining, and you decided to go undesignated, which basically means you're coming in the military without a designated rating or job, and so you're going to go work in deck department, and so you sign your contract. You go to boot camp. Do you remember anything about boot camp? How that went?
I remember, for me, it wasn't as tough as other people had, that went through at the same time with me because I was kind of used to being on my own, growing up. Not necessarily, I was young, but say in my teen years, my parents, they had a restaurant, so didn't really see them a lot to begin with during my high school time. So I kind of felt like, I was kind of getting raised on my own for a bit,
Gotcha.
even though I was still living with my parents. But boot camp first of all, the RDCs, they're like comedians. I don't know what it is, but I'd laughed a lot. I
Yeah.
worked out a lot there. There's a smell that you'll get when you go to boot camp that you'll never forget. Same thing when you go to your first ship. There's just these different things that I had never experienced. Going to a big airport like O'Hare over there in Chicago, and just the first time, walking out into the RTC and they start yelling at you. It was a lot to consume, but
Sure.
looking back, it was just a change of lifestyle, and to this day, I'm kind of I'm not that same person that I was after I stepped off that bus.
It changes you, right? I mean, it you have no choice but to mature very quickly. And
Correct.
and it's you have no choice but to adapt and move forward. Well, that's cool. And so you go to boot camp, you get out of boot camp, and I wasn't in deck department. So is there an A school that you guys go to, or you guys go straight to the
It's
ship?
not really it's not an A school, but it's a 2 week introductory to seamanship school. So it's like an abbreviated A school because a lot of this work that you're doing, it's on the job training basically when you
Uh,
get to a ship. And like you said, you're dropping the anchor, you're dropping a rib boat for the search and rescue swimmer. You're doing so many things that they just can't teach you all that at a little A school. They need you out in the fleet. So
they,
luckily,
and
I got to
they
go
make
real
those
quick to
things sound so cool, right? When they tell you like, hey, you're gonna be working with rib boats, you know.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Um,
They tell you they pump it up. They say, oh, you're going to be over there. driving the ship, steering the ship, and you are, but then I'll tell you, you're gonna be
Yeah,
steering it from midnight to 4 in the morning,
yeah,
and on top of that, you still have a regular, 9-10 hour workday on top of that. So there's a
yeah.
lot of times of 20-hour work days there when you're getting deployed. So
Mhm.
it was definitely a lot of work.
Cool. And so you go to boot camp, you go to A school, and so like in boot camp they teach you traditional some basic seamanship. Um, it's part of boot camp, but sounds like with you guys got a more maybe intermediate seamanship course, and then
Yeah,
what was the
more hands
process
on.
like? More hands on, okay.
Um,
So like from
yeah, like you
oh,
said,
go ahead.
oh, sorry about that, Anthony. But just like something you said earlier, mooring the ship to the pier. That was one of the things they showed us how to do in the seamanship school. You throw the lines overboard. Say heads up on deck or heads up on dock,
Yeah,
and you're over there. Just anything like that. They taught you a little bit more than what we learned in basic, just real quick. But that way, when you go, you're not completely lost when you get to deck department.
yeah, yeah. And and I mean it really is. So like my first time on a ship, I was like, wow, they really do shoot a line across with a like a shotgun is just a ball tied to a rope, and you're shooting a line across to another ship, so you can pull the line across. I mean, seeing that for the first time, especially on deployment, you're like, wow, this is pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, I
And,
did that
and
plenty of times where you're pulling the line. It's a small little line that's tied to a ball where they shoot it on with the shotgun. The gunner's mates
mhm.
shoot it, and then they tie their line to it, and you're pulling a small line to bigger line, and it gets tiring. But
Yeah,
that's just part of the process. So
and you got
it
two
brings back
ships.
a
I
lot of
mean,
memories.
you got two ships out in the open ocean, and they have to maintain a certain distance from each other without colliding with each other. And
Yes.
it's something to see. I would recommend anybody go on
Yeah.
YouTube and look up what a con rep or an unrep looks like. Um,
And to add on to that, there's what you're saying about the ships being close together. They can only get so close because I guess the Venturi effect will
yeah,
suck them in at a certain point, and that's where you could collide. So, yeah, and they'd have to be at the same speed, and not only that, but they have to be looking miles and miles ahead. So that way, if they have to disconnect,
it's
it's
super
like emergency
complicated.
breakaway.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
there's
mean
there's so much going on in that.
it's so much going on. And what's crazy is that that all this is happening. 18, 19, 20-year-old kids out there. Just it just shows you, what you can do at a young level with the proper training under the proper leadership. Some major things can get accomplished. So like circling back though, so you went to boot camp, you went to A school. Um, if do you recall how you went through the process of choosing your first duty station?
Well, for me, it was mostly they just give you a paper here. There's your orders. That's where you're going. I didn't have a choice. I think I did have uh, I guess an option of coasts, if you will. They say West Coast or East Coast, or I think out Canas. So I chose West Coast, and I did get San Diego. But yeah, as far as choices, no. And um, from there, I could have got a overseas, and that's one thing I was hoping for. But West Coast was it's pretty much I didn't know anything about the East Coast, so I just chose West
Yeah,
Coast because I had
yeah,
a cousin that San Diego.
yeah. What ship did you go to, if you don't mind me asking?
I
Your first
ended up
ship?
going. My first ship was the USS Tarawa, LHA-1.
Tarawa.
It's an amphibious
Okay.
ship, carried Marines,
Yeah.
and we had a well deck that you bring in Alcacs and BMUs, just a bunch of uh, watercraft that would do amphibious landings.
That's cool. My first ship was the Boxer, which is another. I think it was Taro
Oh
was
yeah,
LHA or LHD.
yeah. LHA. I think the Boxer was
Okay,
LPD.
a Boxer was LHD. So
LHC.
it
Okay,
was
yeah,
this big deck, just like the Taro. But it
yeah,
was a little bit newer class ship than the Taro.
yes.
Like LHD 4. I want to say the Boxer was. No, that's cool. So you get your first ship, go to amphibious assault ship, a Tara, and do you remember what it was like the first day checking in?
Yeah, I got there like at midnight. I was trying to hurry because I had to check in by midnight, and
Uh-huh.
I'd never been to San Diego, so. got on the, got there from the airport at about 10 o'clock. Got a cab. They took me all the way into the base, and then it was raining, and the ship was there, but it was so far down the pier that and then you have all your uniforms, so I was struggling. I had everything,
Yeah.
just trying to run to get
It's
onto
funny
the
because
the quarter deck.
yeah.
And I get there, and the first thing, they teach you how to,
Yeah.
seaman recruit Chavez report for duty, sir, and the whole gamut, and the Lieutenant JG there, he's a prior enlisted guy, Mustang, and he's like, hey, calm down, son. You're here. Don't worry. I got somebody for you. So he called somebody from deck
Yeah, yeah.
department. They showed me, birthing. That was like my first introduction to the military, and I said, "Geez, this is." I mean, like after boot camp, of course, but to the ship, and I said, "Wow, this is
This is
not
it.
good." Because like I said, there was a smell to it that I'll never forget. And whenever I'm over there to go to a ship, I smell it. I don't know if it's
Yeah.
the the non-skid in the well
The
deck or the
asbestos? No, I'm
paint
just
itself. It's
all the
something that
asbestos
has
in the air.
a very, yeah, it's something that I can smell, and I'm like, hey, that reminds me of first day of my ship.
Yeah. Yeah. Never forget your first day on the ship, right?
All right.
No, that's really cool. And so, and deck department, you get checked in, you meet your LPO, you meet your chief, you meet your division. Did was it right away? Like, hey, get your hands dirty, or did you have to go cranking, or um,
No, well, it was working right away. I want to say like the next day we were right there. We were taking up some non-skid with the deck crawler. Got really
mhm.
familiar with that piece of machinery, and it was kind of crazy because they told us, hey, we got to get this done by Friday. I got there like on a Tuesday or something, and so for me it was no big deal. I go, hey, I'll work through lunch, and they had to
Yeah.
stop me and say, hey, Chavez, calm down there. Go take lunch. I
We're
go, no, I'm
union.
good. But yeah, I said I don't have to. I'm not. I'm good. I don't have to eat. I'm gonna get this done. And
Yeah, yeah,
they're like, no, you're going to go take lunch. I'm not saying I was like the greatest worker, but it's
yeah.
just at the time I figured, hey, you guys we have a goal here. Let's get it done. If I'm not hungry, why go eat? But they
Sure.
they pretty much made me go, and my uniforms. I went through like two uniforms right away until I started getting got my some coveralls because
Coveralls. Yeah,
it was a
those are
lot
comfortable
of
too.
dirty work. And then I went
No,
mess cranking. I want to say like 2 months later for 90
okay.
days.
90-day mesh cranking. So typically, when you're like was it E4 and below, I want to say, when you first report
Yeah.
to a ship, you get all checked into your division, and after you're done with all your check-in and everything, you go mess cranking. They call you go work in the galley. You know, serving serving food and cleaning the mess decks and serving the ship's crew. Everybody kind of has to go through that. And so, what was that like?
I got kind of lucky. I got put in the ward room where the officers
Oh,
get
nice.
fed. So
Yeah.
I was stuck in the scullery for maybe a day or two. It was about 105 degrees in there, and just washing pots, pans, and the plates from what I remember. But I must have did a great job because the supervisor, first class, he goes, Chavez, you're moving on up. So he put me to go and take care of the berthings of the staterooms for the officers,
Mhm.
and that was a nice little change of tempo there. It was pretty much go and I think get the trashes out, and just pretty much kind of do a little housekeeping, but
Yeah.
it wasn't bad. It was just a lot of staterooms, but had like three or four guys that were with me, so I had a good little thing going there as far
Yeah.
as
For those
considering how the
as
deck department was.
like typically the enlisted guys on the ship, they sleep in this big berthing, right? It's like depends on the ship. Ours was three bunks high
Yeah, same with ours.
and a coffin locker, right? And you just a big room with a bunch of uh you know um bunks in it, and the officers they typically get their own stateroom. Maybe I think sometimes they share
I
two
think
to room, right?
the junior officers were sharing, so it was like two people to a stateroom. About
Yeah.
I'd say about 8 by 8, 10 by 10, maybe a stateroom.
Yeah, so that's kind of how they break things up. Enlisted like general population, right? And the officers get a little bit better living quarters. So, like, what was your first deployment like?
Well, my first deployment, I did a South Pack, and which honestly was a nice little deployment. We went did counter drug ops down towards the shores of Mexico. We stayed, 12 miles off the shore doing international waters uh, boardings, and we got to go to all the ports on the west coast of Mexico, Cabo, uh, Mazatlan, Puerto Vallarta, Acapulco, and
Mm.
then we hit Panama and Guatemala. So it was it was a lot of work, but by that time I was also a third class petty officer in E4, so I
Oh,
was a
okay, so you got
bosun mate
promoted.
3.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so I was in charge, and like you are well aware of when when you're underway, there's somebody with the pipe in the morning that wakes you up. Well,
Oh,
that
yeah.
person was
That
me.
was you, huh? Oh, wow. So
Yeah,
you had a do the bosun pipe.
yes, I
You
did,
had your
and
Martin
I
spike
remember
and
that,
all that.
the Marlin Spike. You had your little lanyard here that had your
Yeah.
fancy work, they called it.
You
You're
still
supposed,
have
because that
any of
says
that or no?
tradition. I don't know if I still have my lanyard. I have my pipe. I know I have it in my
Oh,
little
that's cool.
military box. So,
That's really
you put
cool.
beeswax, you learn
Yeah.
how to get it so it's tuned the right way, and it was like a pride thing that you have to try to do at least, I think, a minute for the lunch
Mm.
one, and
Hmm.
all of us trying to be the loudest and the longest, have competitions like that. So
That's
that
cool.
was kind of cool. The traditions that the Navy, the boatswain actually does a lot of that. Like the fancy work that you see on the around the ship on the rails.
Yeah.
How they do that with the lines, and they make it all
Yeah.
nice. That's what I learned how to do. I actually did a couple of them in our P-ways there on the ship. Um, that was one of the better things of that rate of being a boatswain was
Yeah. And there's a lot of
learning a lot of the
tradition in
traditions.
that rating. That's probably one of the oldest ratings that Navy has today is a boatswain's mate.
Yeah,
I
I
would
think it
guess.
is the oldest one.
Yeah. That, no, that's really cool. And so, your first deployment, you're a petty officer now. Do you already have your any of your warfare pins?
No, not at that time. I was about to get out because when I came in on Destiny, I came in for 3 years. So I was getting close to getting out, and that's when I put in my package to get out separate, and I think I put in for like 45 days or 40 days of leave or something like that, maybe 30 days. But anyway, my captain called me into his stateroom and said, "You, Pedro Chavez, we'd like to keep you in the Navy." I said, "No, I'm not." you know, you get a little bit more clout as a BM3, as a third
Hmm.
class petty officer, as a bosun mate, because it is a tough job, and you are in charge of a lot more people. But it was something I wanted to do. I thought I could probably do something a little more intellectual rather than
Sure.
laborious. So he made me a deal. He said, "What if I were to get you a job that you want, and you stay in the Navy?" And just out of curiosity, I told him, "Well, there's that job, crypto, a top secret job. People do it behind closed doors, like nobody could ever
You
go
mean a
in there.
double oh
Just
007?
yeah, like you're what was the word they always use? Not snipe, spook. They're always,
Spook?
hey,
Yeah.
these guys
Or
are
spook?
spooks.
Yeah.
So I told him, hey, if I could get that job, I'll stay in. But I wasn't holding my breath. I figured I'm gonna get out because I had put in a package, I think about 3 or 4 months earlier, and it got denied. So I wasn't holding my breath on that. And turns out 2 days before I get out of the Navy, I get that package approved. My
Oh,
my
wow.
captain went to out there back east, and he must have did some lobbying for me because he got me approved. I after that 3 days from when I heard, I had to be already over there in Florida. I had to go to Pensacola, and there I was, 20, I think 20 years old, 21 years old, driving from San Diego to Pensacola cross country on my own. And just it was for me getting out, going to college there at San Diego State, to a whole different change. I'm gonna stay in the Navy, and I have to go to Florida in a few days. It was a big change, but it was a good change, and I thank my captain for that.
That's really cool. It's really cool. And now you fast forward, you're gonna change ratings to and this is kind of what we talked about earlier. You struck for to get a different rating, right? And so
Yes.
you pick up the CTR rating, and how was that like going from a boatswain's mate to CTRE school?
Oh, it was night and day. There's you know I'm glossing over a lot of things that happened in both
Yeah, yeah,
in deck department because it was a very challenging time. And when you're a young person like that, first of all, you're going somewhere new, different, and then having to work a lot and hard. So the morale, to say the least, was really bad. It was really, really, I can't say really, really bad, but it was,
sure.
if your mind wasn't there, if you had other things going on in your life, it could be really, really, really tough for some people. And so that was that kind of environment. Morale was really, really low. To them, the Navy to them was just, hey, you have to take care of the ship, always painting, steering the ship, standing watches,
Yeah.
mooring, anchor, just anything, and even flight ops
And
I was doing there at that one time.
on
So
that,
it was a lot.
what me be on deployment in a different rating. So we would pull into port and Liberty, right? So we got Liberty, and I'm like, hey, it's time to go out and see the sights. But the deck department's got a lot of work to do, and so they got
Yeah,
watches to stand. They have all these, and people don't understand that. Like, hey, yeah, well, you get to pull into port and see some sights, but you also, while you're in port, you have to stand watch, and deck department has to moor the ship to the pier. You know, there's a lot of things that kind of tie deck or bosun's mates up a little bit more than some of the other ratings or like as a third class petty officer, you see all these other ratings going on Liberty leaving the ship about to go have a good time, and you're just like, dang, I gotta stand watch.
yeah, we'd probably be there for an extra hour or so, if not more, just taking care of the mooring of the ship. Also, getting everything ready over the sides, because there'd be, once you put onto port, that's a chance for you to paint the sides. So you have the
uh,
people going over the sides painting. Um, but like I said, from tech department, where there's a lot of times we worked almost 20 hour 20 hour days, to going to crypto, as a CTR, cryptologist technician collection. And I went on deployment as that, as a CTR2. It was night and day. I was like you're saying earlier, you're in an air conditioned space.
yeah.
You're working 12-hour shifts, but you have music, cover music. You have your computers there. It was way different than when I went on deployment as a undesignated
It's funny
seaman. Then
because we'll
postmate.
be in the compartment in the skiff, like with a jacket on because it's so cold in there because
Yeah,
the AC, and then you're gonna go down to the mess deck. So you come out, you got a jacket on, and you're freezing. You come out into the peeway, and you take your jacket off, and there's somebody walking by from deck department just covered in sweat, just like looking at you, like, "Man,
yeah.
what job do you do?"
Yeah, and that's kind of what happened to me, because I didn't know anything what goes on in the skiff. That's why I chose it. But kind of something that I really liked about that my situation was that, because I knew what deck department was going through. There was times late at night, or even in the mess decks, or when we're out in Liberty, that I talked to some of these young seamen that were in that undesignated program, that were in deck
uh,
department at the time, and I was at
kind of
in the
mentor them,
skiff.
right?
Yeah, so I tell them, because I knew what they're going through, and they were
Yeah,
like, "Wow,
that's
you're
cool.
you're a crypto," and I said, "Yeah, but you have to understand, I was also in deck department." And they're like, "So there is hope." And I tell them, "Yes,
Yeah.
there is." Just
And a lot of people
and one of the
don't
biggest things.
know that
Oh, go
coming
ahead.
like external. Sorry to cut you off, but some people coming into the military, at least for the Navy. I don't know if the other branches have a similar program as this. Um, there's opportunities if you get into a rating and you're like, hey, this isn't for me after all. Yeah, you have to stick it out a little bit and do your time, but there are opportunities the Navy will give you to, cross over to something else.
Yeah, and like, the biggest check marks I tell them to do is, first, do your job and do it well. Don't burn any bridges. Have a good attitude. And I know, and I tell them, I know it's hard. You're over here working night and day here, and you just feel like you're getting used, and you're just a body that's getting, that they're just using to fill up spots here. We all go through that, but
Yeah,
that's just part of the process. And there is, if you do everything right, you get all your quals done, there is a chance for you to go and get that job that you really like. And the big thing is, like, for me, when I was a bosun mate, and then I became a crypto. um People looked up to me there. It was a little different, because the intel community, they're multi-agency, but as a bosun mate, the Navy. You're a
yeah,
traditionalist. You know the everything that it takes. You pretty much did a lot of the jobs on the ship. by yourself. I'm not saying I was
Yeah,
engineering
yeah.
or there
But I mean
the flight deck.
that's a lot of truth to it, because I mean I remember times when I was E5 on deployment, and if something come up like, hey, go ask the bosun's mates, I'm an E5, I'm going asking this E3 E4, hey, how do you do this? And
Yeah,
these guys are sharp, like you're saying, they know the Navy, they know how to run a ship, and
yeah.
us folks behind closed doors, and these air condition ratings don't have it as rough as as they did. So,
Yeah,
um,
and I'll say one other thing. They also got me to be the the retirement bosun mate. You know, when I was in A school. You know, I stayed in A school almost a year, and it wasn't that the A school lasted that long, but I was waiting for my clearance for a lot of those months. But because I was a prior bosun mate, there was a bosun mate chief there that was, doing a shore duty there, and he was like, "Hey, boats, you're gonna be the retirement petty officer." It's like, what the heck? So there I am. Anybody any kind of ceremonies, I'm doing it with my pipe, with my lanyard.
that's
There's
cool.
and at that time I still had my rate. I couldn't get my crypto rate badge until I was done with A school, so I was still a bosun mate at the time, and it just gave me a lot more credibility, a lot of respect with the older leadership there, and I was proud of what I did. Even though
Oh
there were
yeah.
some times during the first 3 years that they were trying, they were hard, and I just kept my mind focused and saying, there's something better out here, and
Mm,
honestly, if anybody ever goes through that and gets in the military and sees that this or I'm not just saying the in the Navy, but any part of the military, there are other options out there if you just stick it out and do what you're supposed to do, first and foremost, and then um, you know, uh, time will heal all wounds, especially work
mhm.
wounds, anything like that. You can
And that
use
speaks to
plenty
leadership
of
too. I
time to
mean,
move up.
the cool thing about the Navy is you're on a ship, with, I mean, LHA, LHD. There's a lot of people on the ship, but when you have a good captain, good XO, he knows his crew. You have a few thousand people on board the ship, and for the captain of the ship to know you and to know your story, and he hears that you're getting out, and he takes a personal interest in you and your career. I mean, that to me, that says a lot about his leadership and his care for his crew. And that's one thing I did like about the Navy, is that there were a lot of good leaders who actually took a personal interest in their sailors for their betterment. And it wasn't a lot of, what's in it for me. It was like, hey, what can I do for my guys? I've made it. And kind of what you were saying earlier, right? You when you got your CTR, and your second, as when you're doing deployed as a CTR, you're E5 now, right? And you see these youngsters, boatswain's mates, who are struggling the way you were. You take an interest in them, and you try to give them a helping hand to show them that, hey, it sucks now. I've been through it, but there's a way that you don't really know about, that you can potentially take
Yeah,
advantage of. The Navy
yeah,
will take
and
advantage of
you're right.
you,
You
but
are right. We
if you
always say
let
that
them.
they're going to get their work out of you. They're going to get
Yeah,
their work out of you.
yeah, and
Don't
they
worry.
do.
But you're right about that. As far as having somebody in leadership that that's there to that can guide you, mentor you, and that captain, he was there for me, as far as getting me to the next step at becoming a crypto. But even before that, there was a lot of people that would tell me, "Hey, go. This is what you need to do." Like even when I was about to get out, there was a PN1. He's from Colorado, and he was going to college, so he helped me so I get into San Diego State. I was setting myself up, and I guess the biggest thing that I learned about that was you might have a dream, you might have a direction you want to go, but even if you don't, just pick something and work towards it. Like get all your ducks in the row. If you have to have,
Sure.
your AccuTest test before this college, get that done. If you need an ASVAB, not ASVAB, but SAT, ACT, get that done. Just knock out little things, and even if you don't know if you want to do that, at least it's an option when you do, if you do get out,
Yeah.
or even if you get out of high school, that's something. Just get something get something started and have them ready, so in case that does come up, it's an option still.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. So we're glossing over a lot. I mean, we could talk for
Yeah.
hours. I mean,
Oh yeah.
that's the good thing about having a fellow service member that you've spent time with in the military. We could talk for hours. But so fast forward now, you're a CTR. For both of mate to a CTR, and what was your first duty station as a CTR?
My first duty station was in Denver, Colorado. There, right there where I met you, NSGA Denver in Aurora, Buckley
NSGA
Air Force
Denver.
Base.
Yeah,
Yep, it was a National Guard or Air National Guard base when I got there, and then not too long after that, it became a Air Force base, active duty Air Force base. When I was waiting there for my clearance still because I couldn't have an interim top secret clearance, that's when I went on deployment on the USS Truman out of uh, Norfolk, Virginia. So I did a
yeah,
6 month tour there, and that's where like I told you, I talked to a lot of undesignated seamen, the young enlisted sailors, and that's where I saw the big difference in, choose your rate, choose your fate kind of thing.
yeah.
But um, a big thing too is that I got my surface warfare and my air warfare during that deployment, so that really
Nice,
helped
nice.
me out.
Yeah, and a little
It's
background is, I came in the Navy, and my first duty station was Denver, Buckley Air Force Base, and that was where I met Ruben. And I think I got there as a E2, and so yeah, I mean, it was I was a mess, yeah, and I don't remember exactly how we met. We were on the same watch floor together. But we started, going to the gym together, working out together, hanging out, and you kind of took me under your wing, and uh, you know that same leadership that was shown to you, like you showed it to me, like, hey, don't do this, or do this, Gonzo, to promote your career. And it when I think halfway through my tour in Denver, you were getting ready to get out, which for me, I was like, man, my guy's leaving, um, yeah. So it was tough for me to see you go, but I knew, you had other plans, and it worked out for you well. But yeah, that's kind of
yeah.
where
I think we met probably like, at the gym because we'd always go during the same times.
probably,
But
yeah,
yeah, once I met you, I mean, not only were you were one stocky young man, because you were pushing about 220, you're you're a big you're a big seaman there over there. But you're also you were very sharp. You presented yourself well. I could see you were going to do great things, and you didn't disappoint me at all. You did great. And just a little bit about why I got out. I could have stayed in. I could have got out. I was happy either way. Sometimes
yeah,
there, after a few years after, I was kind of regretting it just because I could have been retired, and all that. But I mean, there was a lot of good things that happened to me after that. I wouldn't have got the chance if I was staying in the Navy. But at that time, I felt like I didn't want to go to another ship, and the detailer was saying, "Okay, you're going to ship over to San Diego and leaves like in a month." I said, "Wait a minute! I've already been on three ships. Um, I have my surface warfare, my air warfare, and there's some, from what I saw, there's like E6s and E7s that hadn't got any of their
yeah,
surface warfares. To me, tells me that they were on ships. So I kind of felt a little jilted on that. But I mean, overall, I love the Navy, and I could have stayed in. It was just a kind of flip of the coin. Hey, let's
yeah,
try out the civilian life.
yeah, yeah. I get it, but it worked out for you. It worked out for you. I mean, that's cool. I mean, um,
Yeah, thank God.
yeah, yeah, thank God, right? And that's kind of what we're trying to do with this platform, where, um, veterans, folks in different unique occupations get to tell their occupational story. I think everybody's story is important, and it's good to hear these stories. Everybody has a different way. I mean, your story's pretty unique in that, you started off in deck department, and you got an opportunity to jump over to the intel side, and that's kind of rare. You get your top secret clearance, and you're able to use that on the outside to, land a civilian job, um, and so, no, that's cool. Um, just kind of wrapping things up, we can have a follow-up session to go a little bit deeper. you can tell us,
Yeah.
day in the life of a boatswain's mate, but this was more of just, your intro to your story. Is there anything you'd like to say to those who are watching this, who are considering joining the military or the Navy? Um,
Yeah, I think that there's a couple things. First, if you do join the military, it doesn't matter what job you're in, do your best. Just tough it out. There's one of the sayings I used to read the Richard Marcinko books when I was in deployment.
oh
One
yeah,
of his like 10 commandments was like,
yeah,
thou doesn't have to like it, you just have to do it. And
yeah,
that's, whenever I was stuck in a tough spot, I was like, you know what? You don't have to like it, just do it and get it
that's
over
right.
with. And the faster you get it done, and you do it right, that's the biggest thing because it only takes a second to get it done right the first time.
Yeah,
So that was some big things. And also after the military, the military gives you so many opportunities, opens up so many doors for you. I think that um, it was the best thing I ever did in my life, career wise. It just taught it. First of all, it gave me discipline, it showed me responsibility, made me grow as a man, as a person. You know, I became a better son, a better father. Just a better overall friend to people just because of my military service. It taught me a lot. I don't
mhm,
think I would have got that anywhere else if it weren't for the military. It showed me, a lot of places around the world. Um, and even to this day on my job, I owe it to the military because of that. Navy specifically. I was because I'm in HR now here
mhm.
with the government. So I'm already going on 26 years, and it's just been one opportunity after another because of the military. And there's a brotherhood there. When I see people that were
Yeah,
in the military, we talk, and we have so much in common.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. And one thing that I remember before I joined the military, I would hear veterans talk about the pride they have in serving their country, and you can't really understand what that means until you've done it. Um, and you have a certain, you take a certain level of pride in those who serve their country, and
Yeah, sorry, Anthony, I'm over mixing your name with my boss because I talk to him every day. I'm already used to saying his name, but
you're
um,
good.
as far as the patriotic side, I didn't touch on that, but that was big. I was there for 9/11. I was recruiting, helping the recruiters out, and it was big. I never seen the paradigm shift as much as during that time. The United States came together. We're honestly proud to be in the military because before that, I
Yeah,
think we're kind of just going through the steps and not really having a defined goal there for
sure,
being
sure.
patriots and
We're not active
we're
war
all just
going
trying to
on, none of that. Just going through the
yeah.
motions.
Once 9/11
That
happened
you
and
bring
the
up a
war
good point.
started,
I
I
mean,
think
that's yeah,
it was like you really were proud to have that flag on your sleeve, and it gives me pride today saying that I was in the military, and I am
yeah.
proud of this country. I'm proud of a lot of things we've done, and there's nothing like this country in the military we have. So yes, I'm glad you
That's
brought that
good.
up. It is a big thing being a proud military and being a proud
Yeah.
patriot.
Yeah, absolutely. And our country's not perfect, I'll be the first to say that, but I'm proud to be an American. I'm proud to have served this country, proud to have been in the Navy, proud to have been a sailor, and thank you for your service, brother.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate you too, Anthony. And I can't wait to see your story because you have a great story as well, and I'm proud of you. I'm a few years older than you, but um, I mean you can't tell because you have that gray beard.
It all
I'm only a
fell
couple years older
down.
than you,
Right. No,
but
that's
you're still
good.
looking good, and I appreciate you having me on. Thank you for your
Absolutely.
service as
Thank
well.
you. Absolutely. And I would love to have a follow-up call. We can get into more detail. You could talk about, day in the life of a boatswain's mate, day in the life of a CTR, and really, I'd really like to you to tell your experience, what happened, what it was like, during 9/11, right? 'Cause I was still in high school at that time, and I joined the military shortly after that. So I came in right when we had just declared war under Bush, and so this was post 9/11. But I would love to have a follow up
Yeah,
call on
yeah.
this, and we can
Anytime,
get
just
into
let me
that.
know.
Well, thank you for your time. This has been great discussion. Really appreciate the opportunity to sit down with you and interview you, Ruben, and I look forward to the next one.
Hey, sounds good, Anthony. Thank you.
Alrighty.